Hi kids, Scientist Leah here. I'm going to answer the rest of your questions. I've got them on my phone. Mr. Cole sent them to me. So I'm going to go through and try and answer them all. Emily G. Is the population of humans on the Galapagos Islands overpowering the population of the animals? On the Galapagos, not so much. The Galapagos are very protected, which means lots of people can't live there or go there. You have to have special permission. But on the wider question, the population of humans as a whole on the planet is damaging the global environment. So the populations of humans overall might be overpowering even the population of animals. Where do the seals on the Galapagos Islands sleep? They sleep on the beach, like most seals. Sunny wanted to know what my biggest discovery was. I haven't discovered anything new to science. However, the most interesting thing I think I ever learnt was that there are more stars the size of our sun in the universe than there are grains of sand on Earth. That's quite a big one. How long did it take Charles Darwin to travel from Plymouth to Sydney? Lots of people have asked questions about this. You don't need me to tell you the days. You can look that up on Google. But think about it as it was a very, very, very long time on ships because they travelled only by air. So it was just wind and currents that moved the boat. So all travel by sea at that point took a very long time, and it was very dangerous and quite exciting, I expect. So, Harry, how long did Darwin think about evolution? And lots of people have asked questions about why did Darwin study biology? Why did Darwin like nature so much? What was it that made Darwin do biology? And for most of those questions, the answer is going to be it's something that he was interested in for a long time. So things that you're very interested in, you might want to spend a lot of your time later in life researching and finding things out about those subjects. So it was something that he was interested in for a very long time. And what other discoveries did Darwin make? Lots of them. He made lots of discoveries of animals new to science and things. You can look them all up. You can see what he discovered. Excuse that, that's just the dog running up and down the stairs. So yeah, you can look them up. He discovered lots of species new to science, named them, that kind of thing. But yeah, he made lots of discoveries. Sam wanted to know, how long did Charles Darwin's journey last for? The voyage of the Beagle took about 5 years. It was originally planned to be 2 years, but it ended up taking 5. Is there something that gets rid of copper? There are some acids that will dissolve metals. Copper is also an interesting one in the fact that it doesn't rust, it oxidizes. So instead of turning rusty like steel or where it goes orange, copper actually goes green. So a lot of the old churches you'll see that have green roofs, they were originally copper. George P. asks, what happened to Darwin on the HMS Beagle? Nothing of real excitement apart from the scientific discoveries and things like that. He would have spent a lot of time cataloguing and writing about his discoveries, writing about his journey, things he saw, talking to the sailors, talking to the captain. So yeah, not actually on the boat, probably not that much. What did Charles Darwin find specifically on the HMS Beagle? If you're talking about the ship, probably rats. Lots and lots of rats. Alice. Was Charles Darwin the brightest of his other siblings? Yes, really. I mean, he's the most famous of all his siblings. Not to say that none of his siblings were brighter, but he's definitely the most renowned of his family. Raya C asks, why is the world becoming warmer? That's quite a complicated question. Short answer is global warming, which is the effect that humans as a whole are having on the environment. So lots of things that we do, like something simple like driving a car, release gases into our atmosphere. And when there's too many gases, it doesn't allow the atmosphere to, in essence, breathe. So it doesn't let out everything that it should, and it keeps a lot of stuff in, which then makes it hotter inside the environment. That's why it's called the greenhouse effect, because if you walk into a greenhouse on a hot day, it's much warmer inside the greenhouse than it is outside. You also asked, would humans be better off living without electronic devices? Now, the answer to this would differ to each person you ask. There are some electronic devices which are incredibly useful, that make our lives much, much, much better. So some people have medical devices that are electronic that they need to be able to live. And if they didn't have them, then, we haven't got the medicine to keep them healthy. But could people do with spending less time on social media, on devices, on iPads and tablets and phones? Yes, definitely. People could do with getting outside more and reconnecting with their local natural environment, in my opinion. Did Darwin find any fossils? More than likely. He didn't find any big ones. None of the ones of real note. But you can find fossils quite easily. If you've ever been on holiday to Dorset, there's a section of it called the Jurassic Coast. And you'll find lots of fossils there quite readily. So if you're ever down that way, look around, you'll probably find ammonites. You can look those up on Google. They're very, very cool. Alfie also asked about the Amazon. We did that last time. So, George M. Did Charles Darwin die in his family house or hospital? He died at his family house. It's called Down House. Me and Mr. Cole have actually been there. Maybe when lockdown's lifted, we'll go back and we'll take a picture of us in the garden. Flo asked, how are there all rare animals on the Galapagos Islands? Mainly because they're a small collection of islands. So when you have a very remote section of land and islands, there's not much chance for species to travel between mainland and island. So once they become cut off, excuse the dog, once they become cut off, it's very, very hard for the species to intermingle. It's why the animals in Australia are so very, very different to the animals that we find in Europe, because it was very, very hard for them to intermingle. So yeah, small island, small population of very specialised animals to live in that environment. That's why they're all quite so rare, because no other animal has adapted or evolved to survive in any environment outside the Galapagos Islands, specifically for the Galapagos. What kind of notes did Darwin take on his journey? Handwritten ones, lots of them. It would have been his general observations of everything that was going on around him. And how did Charles Darwin start to get famous from his discovery? He didn't become famous as such from the discovery of evolution. It was his publication of the Origin of Species that brought him fame. But he was a very well-respected scientist before that happened. That's why it was so well received when he released it. Abigail asked, how long does it take for creatures to evolve? A long time. Generations it takes for evolution to happen. It's takes a long time for an animal to develop characteristics which are specific to their environment. And Raya B Were there any other scientific theories of evolution? Yes and no. There would have been people thinking in that vein beforehand of theorising how or why animals and creatures ended up the way they did. So there would have been, but it wasn't as complete as Darwin's, and they hadn't sort of linked the two ends, if you know what I mean. They hadn't got all the way through to the end of it and explained precisely how it happened. So I think, other than lots of questions about how long it took Darwin to get from point A to point B, we have covered them all. I will try and do the extra questions as well. And if not, see you soon.